Crispy, what's up, brother? Thanks for joining me on the call today.
Oh man, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I was glad we met. We met at Western Expo. I think I bumped into you, and I was glad to be able to connect over there.
Yeah, before all this madness where you couldn't be close to people.
Yeah, I know it's weird. What's funny is I went to Western Expo. Then I went to Shot Show. Were you at Shot as well?
Yeah, I was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I came back. I swear I had coronavirus from Shot Show. Forget about 2 weeks
Oh
later because it was rough when I got back.
man, so we did Disney World with my fiance and my niece and nephew. We came home. That was like between like the was it December 30th through like no the January the 4th
Okay.
or something like that. And then we got home, and then I went to ATA. Came home, then I went to Shot Show, came home, and then I went to Western Hunter Expo, came home, and I was supposed to do another trade show. And man, I was done. I said, I'm not doing anything else. I feel horrible. I had a Z Pack and some other vitamins. And then after that, I was golden, but I was like, I'm staying home for a bit.
Oh man, I don't blame you. I think either between, if you weren't immune to everything through the military already, getting through the show season will definitely build up your immunities because you're around thousands and thousands of people.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Yeah.
I've heard there's been a few cases to come out of Shot Show because
Oh, is it?
a lot of Chinese people come over for that. I mean, it's one of the biggest trade shows in the
Hmm.
gun world, and you have manufacturers from all over the world. Apparently, someone that I know um, got the coronavirus because they were interacting with a lot of people from Asia at their booth.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. Yeah, I
Yeah, neither did I. It took me by surprise.
yeah, I mean, who knows? Like we have no idea how long this thing's been going around for. We have no idea, who's been exposed and how many people are actually exposed in the US. We just have no idea right now. It's pretty wild.
It is. It really is. I mean,
Are
yeah.
you in Texas? Where are you located?
I am. I'm in Texas. I'm in the Hill Country. I'm about an hour south of Austin and an hour north of San Antonio.
Okay, right on. Cool. Yeah, good place to be during times like these.
Oh man, we are in a small town. Just love it out here. It's quiet. I mean, dude, I'm looking at deer across my yard right now, and it's just nobody here is panicking. Everybody's super polite and respectful. And you go to the stores, and then the elderly are going first, and there's a line. They're letting certain amount of people go in at a time. No one's screaming. No one's complaining about it. We all understand. Just taking the measures that need to be taken. And I go out and check my mailbox, and it's quiet, man. There's not a lot of people around, and I think people are getting the picture here. It's like, just stay home. I know it's hard, and it's super hard for me because everything that I do is traveling. I got to go to places and get everything done. But I think it comes to a point where even if you think it's not that serious, just stay at home for a little while and
Yeah.
wait it out, and then go about your day. Like, it's not that hard. I think we're making it harder than what it is, and everybody out there just like, it's a hoax. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as the flu. I mean, it's not as bad as the flu now because we don't have any data on it. We don't know what it does. We don't
Right.
know anything about it. So you can't compare to anything else. I think that's where everybody's getting caught up, and we're making things up in our mind that it's not that bad, it's not that bad. But in reality, I mean, dude, look at New York. They have the highest um, uh, people get infected right now because they live so close to one another. I
Hmm.
mean, they're literally on top of each other, and it's going crazy there. There's more cases there than anywhere else in the U.S. Um, so I don't know, man. It's just I love where I'm at. It's beautiful, man. I've always been born and raised here in Texas, and I wouldn't change it for anything else.
Yeah, man. I mean, we're in a similar boat up here in Maine. We live in a real rural area. Everybody's kind, everybody's friendly. I actually imagine, for the most part, that's most of the people's situations where people are being respectful of each other. People are trying to help each other out. But you gotta spin it. You gotta make it more sensationalized than it really is when it comes to the media. Otherwise, people won't pay attention. So,
For
yeah,
sure.
I think there's a threat there that we ought to be aware of, and we ought to take it with some level of seriousness. But we got to be careful of taking what the media spins to heart, and then assuming that that's just the way it is because they portray it that way.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, I've heard a million different things, and I just can't stop laughing at them. Like I've seen people like, hold your breath for 30 seconds. If nothing hurts and if you don't cough, you're good. I'm like,
Right.
dude, that's not scientific improvement. Like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah.
I don't know, man. I'm in the same boat. Like, I think the media is blowing it way out of proportion as well, because it's now. I think it came at a time where nobody was looking at the news, nobody was watching the news, and their numbers were dropping. And all of a sudden, this comes out, and now people are glued to the TV. And every 30
Hmm.
seconds, it's like, "Oh, we got new information on this." And then you got people out there that legit think that the media puts out what's in our best interest or
Hmm.
what we're looking for. When in reality, it's like, no, they're looking to put something out to create a little bit of chaos, to keep you glued, and to get their numbers up, because now you're watching their TV and now you're watching the commercials and everything, and it spikes up, and now they're able to sell more and stay alive.
Yep. Yep. That's exactly right. Well, I mean, I look at someone like you, and I know how plugged in you are to the community. I know your desire to always serve and lead. I mean, that's something you've been doing for, I mean, your life. Is that something that you feel like you're able to do to the level that you want to now? Like, how are you serving in your community with your neighbors? Like, what is it that you're doing to be that type of man?
I mean, man, it's just like I've always told people this. Like my time in service is done to this country, but not to my community.
Mm,
And anywhere that I can, any way that I can help out here in the community, I am gonna do it. So, we're trying to help out and giving out coffee to the first responders around here. I mean, I actually have a box that I'm gonna take to them here after we're done with the podcast. Taking them coffee, make sure they're awake, they're vigilant, they're doing their job. Um, and anyway, man, I'm involved here with the VFW in our hometown, and they have things they're coming up with, and once they establish what they're going to want to do and how we can help, then we'll go on. But I know we're talking about helping out the elderly that live here that can't get out to the stores, where we'll go buy their groceries and leave it at their door without having interaction or
hmm.
anything, just to be safe for them. um, so and it's just not only that. I think serving your community is just being there, listening, and leading when you need to lead and following when you need to follow. So there's a bunch of different ways that you can continue to serve. It's not just by acting and doing stuff out there, but staying vigilant and helping others when someone needs help.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed is just exercise a little creativity, a little initiative, a little assertiveness, and the opportunities are there. You know, if you're scratching your head wondering how you can serve and how you can help, I almost think that you're not real interested in doing it. You're interested in appearing
Hmm.
like you're doing it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many opportunities if you just open your eyes for a second and look, even if it's just, man, just calling a friend up, right?
Yeah,
Or sending a message and telling somebody you appreciate them or you're thinking about them, just
for
small stuff
sure.
like that.
Dude, I love like making people laugh on my Instagram. I think when I put out funny videos or stuff like that, I think maybe that's a little bit of like giving back to the community, where it'll brighten someone's day up, and they're not like, maybe it'll take them 30 seconds away from this epidemic that's going on, and then they're not thinking about it. And if they're able to laugh at something I put out, like, to me, I'm like, yes, that's kind of serving in a way, because I took that focus and that panic out of you for about 30 seconds, and you were worry free at that moment.
Right. Yeah, that's one of the things I appreciate a lot about what you're doing, and even the entire crew with Black Rifle Coffee is, man, you guys are just funny. You're putting out great information, you're serving people, you're helping people, you're employing veterans, and then you're just having a good time, and like so many of us, and I fall into this camp as well, are so uptight and like a stick up our ass about everything, and to be able to just let the guard down just for a second and laugh and appreciate something that's funny and not be offended by it, which I'm sure is something you deal with all the time. But just using that humor is really powerful.
And it's a great therapy, man. I'll be honest with you. Like when I was in the hospital, there was guys that were worse than me and others that weren't as bad as me. And we started joking with one another. And I remember one of our buddies came in and who's a good friend of mine now. And I met him. We were talking, and I was like, "Hey, I'm Omar Avila," and he's like, "Oh, you're Mexican." I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Oh, the refried beaner," and I was like, "Oh, dude, that's a good one." And I just started laughing. I was like, "Man, I like this guy. Like, that's awesome." So we started making fun of our injuries. We made light of the situation, and I feel like that was one of the most therapeutical things that I could have ever done because it made me take charge of my injuries. I
Mm.
don't let my injuries consume me. And I think that's the problem nowadays. When you let something consume you that is meant to harm you, it's what's gonna break you. But if you're able to own it and wear it with pride and you know, just buckle down and say, "Here we go," I think that's the best therapy you can do, and that's what humor did to me. That's kind of why you know, like all the guys from Matt, from Evan, JT, Logan, all of us, like Rafa, we try to make light of the situation of things that are going on, and we all find each other in the same space that we can take it to that dark humor that everybody else is accustomed to, with not really caring if you offend somebody or not, because it's something that shouldn't be taken so seriously. And you see it now, like comedians, man, are having such a hard time because they go up there, they tell a joke, something that's clearly a joke that they don't mean, and it gets twisted up, and now they catch themselves apologizing for a joke.
Right.
Um, so that's kind of what we fall into. Like, even if I get it a lot, and I just really don't care. I care of those that laugh and enjoy it, and really don't care about those that don't.
I kind of believe that even humor is supposed to be offensive in a way because it gets you talking about the conversations that everybody's thinking, but nobody's willing to discuss and talk about. And so it seems to me the humor that's funny is taboo, right? Like it's kind of off limits, but we give that permission to those who are funny to talk about it as like a release valve. Because if nobody's saying the funny stuff, everybody's just walking around and they're all on eggshells and they're all offended about everything and it just becomes a big issue. So it seems to me like we have to give permission to people to be able to laugh and mock and ridicule and joke about things without getting so uptight and offended about everything. It's craziness.
It is. It is. I don't understand it. But hey, it's the new world we live in.
Yeah. Well, and I guess that's good too, because then it gives you a place and an opportunity to step into it and people can really appreciate it because it's not as prevalent, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. 100%.
So talk to me about your military experience. Did you join after 9/11? I think I understood that correctly.
I did. So I was a sophomore when 9/11 happened,
Okay.
and then that's kind of what started it all for me. I remember being in the classroom and saw everything go down. And I don't know if you know this, but I wasn't born in the U.S. I was actually born in Mexico.
I did know that. Yeah, your
Um,
dad was served in the military
yep,
before he was even a citizen, if I understand correctly.
yep. He was
Okay.
a resident before he was a resident, and then became a citizen.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we came to this country when I was 9 years old, and in my sophomore year is when I became a citizen, and it was actually 2 weeks before 9/11 happened.
Mm,
So at that point, I was very thankful that I was given the opportunity to be anything that I wanted to be in this country. Not only me, but my mom, my brother, and my sister. They were U.S. citizens, and they could become anything that they wanted to become. So when 9/11 happened, I feel very true, like I was born and raised here in the U.S. Like I knew I was an American citizen to the core, and I was an American, and I just felt like that's what I needed to do. I needed to go fight and take it to them because they had punched us at a time where we didn't expect it, and I just wanted to go over there and fight those bastards. I didn't want them to come here and having, my brother and sister and mom and dad have to worry about those guys being in our country doing, harmful things, or who knows, man, just bad things to a lot of people. So that's ultimately what made me join. Um, and then went in as an infantryman. I did a lot of research, and I wanted to do the whole special forces thing and whatnot. But I looked at it, and it was going to be 18 months of training before I could even deploy. So I said, all right, I'm going to go. I'm going to go infantry first. Get a couple deployments under my belt, get some knowledge behind me, and then go that route.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of what I did. So I ended up going infantry, and went in, and then went on a deployment. And May 14th of 2007 was when my vehicle got hit with an IED, and ultimately resulted to 75% burns to the body, third and fourth degree burns, and had a metal torso amputation, which is just half the foot that they took, and then 9 years later, ended resulting to an amputation below the knee.
Was it due to infection or just complications that continue to come up, or what was the issue there?
Yeah, so I blame Donnie O'Malley from Vet TV 100% for this, because at the time he was the one that started the hiking situation for the 22 veterans a day,
Okay, right.
and he hosted one in Austin, and I was living in Austin at the time, and he's like, "Dude, let's do it. Come on, bring it." I was like, "Let's do it, bro." Put on my rucksack, and I overdid it a little bit. We were supposed to do 22 pounds. I ended up doing like 50 or something. And my thing, and we go on this road march. It was 22 miles, and finished the whole thing. And the bottom of my foot, I had a big old scar, or the other half a foot, and it ended up opening up. And with burns, you kind of get used to injuries not healing up so fast, because it just takes a little longer. And I came home and opened up, and I was like, dang it. All right. So I had all the medical equipment you can think of in my house. Being a burn patient and having
Sure.
over 100 surgeries, I can perform a small surgery right now if I wanted to. So I was like, I can take care of this. So I started packing it. I started doing all these things, and it wasn't working. It wasn't working. I go to the VA, and I sit down with my doctor, and I was like, "Hey, doc, like this, it's not healing up. What do you think it is?" And she looked at it, and she's like, "Oh, just put this in there. You'll be fine. Don't worry about it. You're good to go." And I said, "Okay." Come home, and 5 months later, it's not healing. And then finally, Kristen, my fiance now, she's like, "You need to go get that looked at, and you need to go to BAMC." And BAMC is it's called Brooke Army Medical Center in San Antonio, which is the best burn unit in the world, and happens to be a military medical installation. That's where all the burn guys go to. So all the doctors there know me, man. I mean, like I said, 100 and some surgeries and all done there. They know you very well. I spent
Mm-hmm.
3 years in the hospital, so they know me. So I walked in, and I said, "Hey, doc, like this hurts, man. Like I don't know what to do." And so they're like, "All right, let me look at it." They look at it, like, "We're gonna schedule surgery. Let's go in there, see what's going on, clean it up, and close it." And I was like, "All right, let's do that." So they go in, and they actually ended up finding a local cancer. It
Oh.
wasn't spreading. Yeah, it wasn't spreading. Wasn't doing anything. And it was from all the chemicals and the IED from Iraq.
Mm.
So they came back. They brought me back out and said, "Hey, there's more in there. We just didn't want to keep you under for so long, but we're gonna have to do another surgery." And I said, "Oh, fine, I get it." We scheduled surgery like a week later. We go back in. They take everything out. Well, they took so much skin and meat and stuff from the place, from the bottom of the foot, that they closed me up. And after a couple of weeks, they're like, "You can walk on it now." I went to go take a step, and it just, all the stitches broke, and it just
Oh
hurt a
man.
lot worse. Yeah. So it wasn't healing because I had like no meat or anything in there for it to actually heal. It was just a big old circle in there, like they scooped up ice cream or something. And I sat down, I talked to Kristen, and I told her, I was like, "Hey, look, I'm in a lot of pain. I just don't think this is going to heal. Like, I want to amputate, this thing and get in a prosthetic and get going. And, we had a conversation. I talked to my parents as well because I wanted to have this amputation done like 9 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
But, my mom, she was always crying and she's like, if you have it, just keep it. And my sister as well. So, I kept it for the longest time. And then I finally just told them, I was like, look, I'm in pain. I just want to be done with this and move forward in my life. And yeah, I understood. So we went in on a Friday and the doc walked in and he walked in with an ortho surgeon. And I was like, I already knew what they're going to say. But in my mind, I'd already made it. So I bit them to the punch and they're like, hey, it's not healing. And I said, doc, cut the damn thing off already.
Mm.
And then the other doc next to him was like, well, that's kind of why I'm here. And I said, well, let's go. Can we do it today? And they're like, how about you go home for the weekend, come back on Monday, we'll do the surgery Monday, and then we go from there. And I was like, cool. So that's what ended up happening. Went home, spent the weekend at home, and then came in on Monday, had the surgery, spent 5 days in the hospital. They released me on Friday, and this was like late August. I think August 30th is when I had the surgery.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, they told me that by this third week of December, I was going to be in a prosthetic walking. I actually got in a prosthetic the second week of November and was walking.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah,
So it
yeah,
started to heal pretty quick, and you got back on top of it fairly
uh,
quick.
I mean, night and day, man. It was
Yeah.
night and day. Kristen did such a good job of changing my diet up, started eating it very clean. I think we were doing paleo at the time. And just eating clean and staying healthy helped my injury just heal a lot faster, or the amputation healed super fast. I mean, we were fast tracking. Even the doctors were like, damn, this looks really good. I was like,
Mm.
cool. So healed up pretty fast and was able to get in a prosthetic that quick, and haven't looked back ever since. We've had some bumps along the road, which are minor fixes, but it was worth it. I should have done that a long time ago.
Yeah, yeah, it sounds like it. No, that's good. I was really interested because I was looking at some of your story from that encounter with the IED. It seems like even though you had 70% burns, like were those heat burns or was it chemical burns? Was it a combination of both? Like what happened in that scenario?
So we ran over an IED,
Mm-hmm.
and so what ended up happening is it was a command detonation, meaning there was a guy watching us, pulling or pushing the button,
Right.
and I think he was too close and panicked a little because he was supposed to hit it in the middle.
Oh,
If
okay.
he would have gotten the Humvee right in the middle, we all would have been dead. I
Right.
mean, without a doubt.
Hmm.
But we think he panicked a little and pressed it a little too late. So what ended up doing is it hit the back of the Humvee, pushing it up in the air, and all that diesel just went everywhere and it started burning inside the Humvee.
Oh man.
So it's a combination of the IED, the diesel, um, the extra rounds that we had in the vehicle, the extra grenades. I mean, it was just a combination of a bunch of different things that ended up causing the burns.
And then were you in the front and then there was guys in the back, or what was the seating situation?
So I was the gunner
Okay.
on that vehicle.
Okay, yeah. So you were up top, you were outside of the turret there. Okay, man.
I was.
That
Yeah, yeah,
is
yeah.
that 50 cal, is that what it is up there?
Yep. 50 cal.
Yeah. And then I was just impressed with your ability to assess the situation, even despite your injuries and what you were dealing with, and then actually lead yourself and, if I understand correctly, somebody else out of harm's way into a more secure, either the base or somewhere more secure.
Yeah. So what ended up happening was when we started. I mean, I'll give you the quick rundown. So when we started the patrol, we went out on a 5 vehicle convoy. I was the third vehicle. So when that ended up happening is we're traveling at 12 o'clock and we started getting engaged at a 9 o'clock, where the first two vehicles couldn't turn where the enemy fire was coming from because they had already passed the street. So we ended up
Oh,
turning. So we turn and I'm looking down the street and I see all these Iraqis there with RPKs and AKs just shooting at us. And, at that moment I was like, adrenaline kicks in and, everything that you've trained for just kind of all comes in and you get that tunnel vision. So all I could see was them, and I just get behind my 50 and I start laying down
Light it
fire.
up. Yeah.
Oh yeah, man, lit a couple of them up. And as we're doing that, everybody else falls into formation. So now being the third vehicle, I became the first, leading the whole convoy. And as we're doing that, we all fall back into place, and then we all turn again because we started getting engaged from a different road. Well, we start going that way, and I see them, and I just start lining them up. And at that moment, we went over a hump, and I'm trying to process what this hump was because we've been there about 11 months, and at this point, we knew every single street like the back of our hands, man.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely knew these streets, and we learned them in a quick time because we were supposed to be out of there by 12 months. So we were supposed to stop at 10 months patrolling, and then we moved back to the big base, get all our stuff together, and head home. But at that moment is when we got extended to 15-month deployments. And it was a good call on President Bush because we weren't getting a lot accomplished at 10 months. So we would have left at 15. You stay there 13 months, and then you push out the last two,
Right.
and then you get more accomplished. So that's kind of what had happened. We should have been home, and we ran over this bump, and like I said, I'm processing everything. Like, wait a minute, that wasn't there. That wasn't supposed to be there. Wait, what was that? And then the loudest idea I've ever heard in my life was off, and it pushed the vehicle up in the air. You're talking about a 1-ton vehicle,
Yeah.
about 5 or 6 feet in the air. And then when we come down, me being on the gun, my legs gave out when we hit the ground, and I fell to the back right hand side where Specialist Harkey was. And I remember falling and just laying on his lap, and I looked into his eyes, and his eyes were just white, man. Like he died on impact.
Mm.
And I just remember looking at his eyes, and then I rolled over and I looked to the left, and I saw Fleming, Sergeant Fleming, open the door, and he jumped out, and I saw him running on fire, and it was super slow but fast, man. Like everything slowed down, but it was quick. And then I saw the driver too, Catterton, jump out on flames, and then they went out on my side, and I couldn't see. And one of my best friends was the truck commander, the TC in the front, and he couldn't get out because his equipment had burned into the seat of the Humvee, and he was very weak, was very very injured, couldn't get
Like
out.
fused to the seat or something.
Yeah, all his
Oh wow.
equipment, and he reached over to me and grabbed me on the leg, and he's like, "Get out, get out, get out of the Humvee." And I was like, "Dude, I'm good." Like, in our world, it's either you come home alive or you don't. I had no idea that you can come home wounded and live somewhat of a normal life. Like that was not in my job description. It's
Mm.
for us dying in combat, it's the highest honor that you can get. And that's kind of where I was at. I said, it's been a good run, and up to that point, I had lost faith in God. I had lost about 15 buddies in a row, and I just couldn't process why God was allowing that to happen. So I had lost a little bit of faith, and in the midst of the fire and everything that was going on, I just remember making peace with him. And as I was laying there, I asked him for forgiveness. I asked him to look after my brother because he was going to be the oldest now, and I told him to look after my sister. And the one that I was worried about the most was my mom. I
Mm.
told her to give her patience and virtue and let her heal, with me being gone, because I knew she was going to take it very hard. And I knew my dad was going to be okay being prior enlisted. He knew what I was getting into. I'm not saying that it wasn't going to be hard for me being gone, but I understood that he was going to be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was doing all that, man, I just felt this light come over my body. And like, I just, even to today, I credit God 100% because it was something that just came over my body and said, not today. This is not where you die. Get up
Mm.
and get up. And I got up on the gun, and the guys behind us were trying to get to us, but we were pinned down because there was a guy on a rooftop shooting down. And I was able to grab my 50 cal and take a couple of rounds. And as I shot a couple of rounds, and one of the rounds cooked off in the barrel because of the fire.
Okay.
Um, and so exploded. And at that moment, I was like, "Oh shit, I need to get out." I need to get out. So I started climbing, and as I was climbing out, a grenade went off. So, we had extra ammunition in that vehicle, and at this point, they had already pulled out Campos. Campos was able. Once that guy was pushed off, they were able to come in, and one of the guys that was actually running towards the Humvee to get him caught a round in his sight on the side plate, and it just ended up hitting the side plate where he wasn't severely wounded, but he was able to get him out. And at that point, I'm getting out of the Humvee, and as a gunner, you're always taught to either jump in the front hood to get down, because the Humvee's about 6 feet high.
Right.
And so I was going to do that, but that was all on fire. So if I would have jumped there, I would have gone down with the engine, and that pretty much would have been it. So your second option at that point, it's the trunk. So you get on the trunk and then you jump down. Same situation. Well, that's where most of the fuel was burning off. So I said, all right, I need to jump to the side. So I jumped to the side of the Humvee, and when I landed, I was so severely burned at that moment that when I hit the ground, both of my legs broke, and I had both compound fractures. My femurs. Both of my femurs broke, and I was still on fire. So when I jumped, I managed to grab my M4. I was still on fire, and I did the whole drop and roll, man. Like, got on the ground, started rolling, and let me just tell you, that shit doesn't work. Whoever invented it is alive. So finally, one of the guys from the last vehicle was able to run up to me, and he's like, "Close your eyes, close your eyes." I go, "Why?" And he finally puts me out with a fire extinguisher, and I had all that stuff on me. And he's like, "I'm going to go get a medic. I'm going to go get a medic." I said, go. And he goes, and I start pushing myself away from the Humvee because I can still feel the heat of the Humvee. So I pushed myself to a door across the street from a house that was there. And I remember I grabbed my M4 and I saw movement on the rooftop. So I just started unloading my M4, ran out of ammo, only had 30 rounds in it. So ran out of ammo. And at that point, that weapon's useless. So I just laid there, and then one of my buddies ran right by me, and he looks down and he's like, "Are you alive?" And I looked up and I was like, "I think so." And he's like, "Oh shit, we got to get you out of here." And I said, "Okay." And at that point, when he was doing that, man, it was kind of a scene out of Black Hawk Down. You remember when the helicopters were above them shooting?
Yeah.
This kind of the same thing had happened. There was two Black Hawks in our area operations that were flying by, and saw the smoke of the IED and decided to go check it out to see what it was as they were flying home, because they were running low on fuel, and they actually saw us being engaged. So they were able to establish communications with the guys on the ground. And at that point, there was about 30 to 40 insurgents coming our way to just kind of, do work. And we were so lucky that these guys came down and smoked them all. So all this brass is falling on us, and they ended up killing all the guys. And my buddy goes, "All right, well, we got to get you out of here." And I said, "Okay." And I was like, "I think my legs are broken." And he took a quick glance at me, and the midst of all the chaos that's going on, he really didn't assess me that well. And he's like, "No, your legs look good. Let's get up." And I said, "Okay." Picks me up. We start walking to the next Humvee that actually pull around in front of us to secure the front, just to make sure no one was coming from that side. And he puts me in the Humvee, and as he's gonna open the door to put me in there, he's like, "All right, man, I gotta let you go," because anybody that's ever served, those doors are about 500 pounds, man. They
no doubt, they're heavy.
are heavy.
Yeah.
So he let me go to open the door, and as he did that, my femurs re-broke, and I remember just falling back, and I saw the Humvee, and then I was looking at the sky, and I couldn't feel anything because I think the adrenaline was so high that I had no recollection of pain at the time. And he comes over to me and he's like, "You okay? Are you okay?" And I was like, "I told you my legs were broken." And
now it's confirmed.
He was in kind of like, yeah, now it's confirmed. So he was trying to, he had this blank look like I was crazy, but again, it was the adrenaline.
Yeah.
So he picks me up, he puts me inside the Humvee, and medic jumps in, and the medic starts like working on me, and we had a brand new driver. The driver that was driving that Humvee was his first mission going out the wire. We were getting replacements because of all the guys that we were losing. So he was one of those replacements, and it was his first time out the wire. Um, can't blame the guy. All this stuff is going on. It's his first day out. I mean, my first day out wasn't like that. It was just a small firefight, and
Mm-hmm.
so I look back at it now and can't blame the guy. He's screaming. He's scared. He doesn't know what's going on. So I reached over and I slapped him and I said, "Shut up and give me the headset." So he gives me the headset and I start calling up to the company. I was like, "Hey, I got one KIA, one killed in action, and I got four WIAs, four wounded. We need a medevac, as soon as possible. We're about to push. As soon as I get green to go from everybody, we'll push forward." And medics working on me, and they're like, "All right, all right." They didn't know that I was one of the guys that was wounded when I was talking to them
Sure. Yeah.
on the um, on the radio. And man, I remember out of nowhere, dude, I just got super thirsty. Like I needed some water, and I looked over at the medic, and I said, "Doc, hook me up with some water, dude. I need some water." And he's like, "No, man, I can't give you any water right now. You're too severely burned."
Mm.
And I looked at him and I was like, "Dude, I outrank you. Give me some fucking water." And he did. And I took a quick sip and I made the biggest mistake of my life. I poured it on my face. I poured water on my face. So all the chemicals and everything fell into my eyes.
Oh.
And I couldn't see. Everything went black, man. Like I could not see. And I finally hear over the radio, like, "Let's go, push, 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 push. We got to get out of here. We got to get out of here." And at that moment, right then and there, I said to myself, "There's two things I can do. I'm going to panic, and it's going to make this driver panic, and I'm going to cause more lives behind me, or I can keep my composure and help and guide this new private get back to the fob so that we can get medical attention and go."
Mm-hmm.
And like I had stated earlier, we've been there quite a bit of time, so I knew the streets like the back of my hands. I knew exactly where we were at. So I tapped him. I said, "Go, go, go, go." And he's like, "Where are we going?" I was like, "Just go." So I started giving him directions. I said, "You're gonna see like this orange house in the corner. You should be seeing it in about 300 yards." And he's like, "I see it, I see it." I said, "Take that left." And he took that left. And I remember always taking notes on landmarks around there. And there was this house on a corner that had this humongous bell. For some reason, they had it in their front yard. I mean, it was
Mm.
there. Um, so we see this. I was like, "You're gonna see this bell in front of this house. When you see that bell, you take a right." And he's like, "I see it, I see it." I said, "Take the right." And I was like, "Tell me when you see the fob." So our fob was in the middle of Adamia, the town that we lived in. I mean, we were surrounded by the city. I mean, there was no denying that we were there. Everybody knew we were there.
And do all your
And I
movements and everything else, I'm
Oh,
sure.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, 100%. And so I was like, "Let me know when you see the gate, when it's 100 yards away." And he's like, "I see the gate, I see the gate, 300, 200." And then finally he goes, 100 yards. So I call up radio. I say, open the gates, we're rolling in." So they open the gates, we roll in, and, we get in front of the aid station. At this point, I knew that there was only three medics in our fob, and there was four of us. So they opened the door, and I closed it, and they opened the door again, and they're like, "Get out! We need to get you out." I was like, "Go get the other guys. They're worse than I am." And they're looking at me. I'm burned naked in the Humvee, and they're like, "No, no, no, we need to get you out." I was like, "Dude, there's only three medics. Get the other guys." And we were lucky enough that we had a SF group right next door to us. That was we were kind of attached to them, or whatever you want to call
Mm-hmm.
it. And I had been talking to one of them for a while. He was a medic, and I was like, "Hey, man, I'm interested. Can I get your input on what I need to do when I'm done with this deployment?" So him and I had, gone back and forward talking for quite a bit. And he finally comes running. He opens the door. He's like, "I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. There's four now. We need to get you out." And I'm like, "All right, all right, all right." So they pull me out. They put me on a stretcher. They take me inside the aid station. And I remember looking, man, and I saw the guys come in. And once I saw the other guys come in, I was like, "All right, we're here." And I calmed down. The adrenaline went away, and the most excruciating pain I had ever felt in my life just kicked in like that. I mean,
Oh,
all at once, and I just started shaking really bad. And I I grabbed the medic and I was like, Dad, give me some morphine, give me something. I'm hurting really bad. And he's like, I can't. We got to get you stable first, and then I'll give it to you because it's gonna slow your heart rate down so much. So we got to assess you really quick. And then he finally, after they did it, and I'm just kind of going out at this point. He hits me with it in the chest, and I come down. And I mean, anybody that's ever had morphine just kicked into them know that it's crazy. It's just you start saying shit that you don't even remember.
Mm.
And I apparently grabbed the medic and I said, "If I die, it's on you." Um, which I don't think it was the right thing to say.
Yeah, but yeah, given the circumstances, there's yeah, it's understandable.
Yeah, so he told me that. I told him that a few years after I was out of the woods and then in the clear. And he told me I said that. I was like, "Oh man, I gotta buy you like a case of beer or something." And he's like, "Nah, you're good, man." He's like, "I'm just glad you're alive." And I was like, "Yeah, me too."
Yeah.
So from there, they got us stable. They took us to the ALZ, the landing zone, and a couple of birds came down, picked us up, and took us to the green zone in Iraq, which is people don't know what the green zone is the biggest, well, one of the biggest FOBs in Iraq, but they had a full-on hospital set up there. So we got there, landed, and they took us into the surgery room. And I just remember looking at the guys, and I was like, "Boys, we're going home." And Catterton just nodded, and then Fleming was like, "Yeah." And then Campos, I couldn't get a response from him, but I just saw his eyes, like, he was like, "Yeah." And we all went into surgery, and that was the last thing I remember
Mm.
in Iraq. Next thing I know is they flew us to Landstuhl in Germany, and we got there a little bit late. There was a bird waiting. I think they sent a huge, those big birds inside. It's like a C-130, and it's a whole hospital inside.
Oh, okay. Right.
And yeah, so they had two guys that had lost their limbs on that flight, and they needed to get them to the U.S. And they waited on us for quite a bit. I guess we got pushed back due to weather, or something had happened, and we missed that window. So they decided to take off, and they were about 3-4 hours into their flight when we landed in Germany. And the doctors assessed us really quick, and we're like, "Man, these guys aren't gonna make it, more than 2 days if they don't get to San Antonio and get the treatment that they need because we don't have it here."
Mm-hmm.
So those guys decided to call the guys on the bird in the air and said, "Hey, listen, assess the situation and let us know what's going on. If you guys need to take these guys there without turning around because you think they're critical, keep going. But if you can turn around and come get these guys that need to go, do so." And they made a call, man, and they returned. They came back and got down. They filled up. They loaded us all up. And the pilots refused to get out of the cockpit because they're only allowed to fly, I guess, X amount of hours.
Okay.
And that was going to push them like an hour or two. But if they would have pushed those guys out, they would have to go woken up two other guys to fly, and it was going to be chaos. So they locked themselves in the cockpit. They refused to come out.
Really?
And yeah, this is a story that I was told by one of the guys on that flight, that they were fighting, trying to get these guys out. And they finally said, "Get away from us. Let us fly, because if we don't go, these guys are going to die. So go." And I guess they broke protocol. They got back up in the air. And May 14th was when I got hurt. And May 16th, I was in San Antonio
Wow.
at Brook Army Medical Center, walking through the doors to get on my second surgery.
It's a wild story, man. It's unreal. That's unreal. I'm amazed at your level of calm and clarity and focus under all that chaos and that madness.
Man, it's just it's second nature, you know. This is stuff that we train for, and it's, every time that I get to go speak in front of soldiers, Marine, airmen, and Navy people, like, it's just something that I always try to grind into their heads. Is like, I know right now this training may seem stupid, and you may think it's not something to take serious, but I was like, I was in the same boat you did, but I was lucky enough that I paid attention sometimes, and it all helped me at the end. It played a key role in that day because one, I was able to stay calm. Two, I applied everything that I learned when we were going to the field, when we were training, and it all played a big role in keeping us all alive. So it's just second nature, man. It was just one of those things where that's what my job required me to do at the moment, and that's what we did.
Do you feel, you talked about God and faith? Do you feel like you were, and I don't want to lead, but do you feel like you were given a second chance? Like what's your thought process? Because it sounds to me like you had at one point you had resigned that this is it, I'm going to die.
Yeah, most definitely. I think he just kind of. I don't think God was done with me. Just right then and there. I think He had bigger things for me that I didn't realize at the beginning. I didn't know why. I had survivor's guilt for quite a bit. After we got back, Campos ended up dying in the hospital. They tried everything, amputated both legs, both arms due to infections. But ultimately, all his intestines and everything inside of his stomach were too badly burned that he didn't make it. And that was one of my best friends. I was a private when I got to the unit, and I ended up becoming an NCO because of him. And I always looked up to him. He was the epitome of what an NCO should be in the service, and that's what I was striving to be like. And he was he was my mentor, man. He was that dude, that older brother I never had,
Mm.
because I'm the oldest of three. And when he died, it was life changing for me because I thought he was going to make it because he was the strongest person that I knew. And I was like, oh, he's going to beat this, and we're going to be laughing about this, down the road. And when I found out that he died, it just broke me. And honestly, it broke me really bad because he was married, had a son, and I was single, didn't have a family, nothing. I was like, why couldn't we trade places? So he could be here with his family. Um, and I didn't really understand why God had spared my life at the moment. But just like anything, man, it took a long time for things to play out, and for me to actually see why He did that.
Why do you feel like that's the case now?
Just like this podcast, man, I've gone on a bunch of different ones, and I've done a lot of stuff in my short time of living, and I do motivational speaking. I took a break from it and slowly coming back. Um, but just the testimonials that I've gotten online and from people where I've gone and spoke at, man, one plays out in my head a lot, dude, that this one made a huge impact on me was this gentleman who was a teacher or a pastor. I can't remember what it was. Um, but him and his wife went on their honeymoon finally after being married for like 30 years or something. They were able to like take a break, and they were in the Philippines or somewhere out there. And they were by the water, and this wave came in and swept him and his wife into the water. And his wife ended up drowning because of that, and he was pushed out into the sea, and he was trying to swim back, and he just told me, and as what he was writing to me, he said, the whole time that I was swimming back, all I could say was crispy the F on. And he's
Mm.
like, I couldn't bring myself to saying the bad word because I'm a pastor, but he's like, your motto kept playing in my head. And he's like, and I don't understand why, but I kept telling myself, crispy on. And I was able to swim on the shore. And then later on, they ended up finding my wife's body. And he's like, I'm not giving you 100% of the credit because God played a big role in that day, but He helped save my life that day. And man, I've gotten a lot of messages like that. And the other day, yesterday, I got one from a guy who said he was going to off himself after his girlfriend went to work, but decided to open up social media. I saw something on my page where I wrote something: if you're having a hard time, reach out to somebody, find about a buddy. A permanent solution is not the answer for a temporary problem.
Mm.
And so he read that and reached out to somebody, and he wrote to me saying because he saw something on my page that he was, he understood, and he lived another day. and decided not to pull the trigger. So things like that and messages like that, man, that I've gotten, I think those are uh, just, I don't want to say a validation, but those are the things that I look at now that I'm like, man, that's why he kept me here. And, along the way, I've been able to do stuff with burn kits all over the country, because of amazing people that are behind the scenes. A lot of people think that it's just me and it's just me, but man, dude, if you could see like the amount of people that are behind me, from my family to my fiance to everybody, like it takes a village to make things happen. And I think everybody knows that. And, I can't take all the credit, man. I think it's everybody behind me that supports and pushes me to do what I do every single day that should get the credit. So, that's kind of when I realized what God's plan was. It was to just have all these people come together to do something greater, and just a bigger purpose than I could have ever figured, man. It's just crazy. Like, you wake up every single day, and when I read messages like that, it's just, man, it feels good to know that the some of the dumb stuff and some of the serious stuff that I put out there is being seen by a lot of people, and it's making a difference.
Yeah, no doubt. I know you're helping hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, that's evident, and I really admire and respect you for that. Did archery help with your recovery process, or had you always been a hunter, or was that something that came after you had retired from the military?
Yeah, so I mean, hunting kind of came into play. I grew up in Brownsville, Texas, which is a small town in the border. I mean, we're a border town, and we grew up very poor, so hunting wasn't a priority in our family just because we didn't have the means to go out and hunt. And
Hmm.
we're a little different because 98% of Texas is privately owned. So if you don't know somebody with a ranch
Right.
that'll let you come in and shoot their cold bucks or anything, there's really not a lot of hunting going on, for people that don't have the means to do it. There was always dove hunting. So we did dove hunt from time to time because, anybody lets you sit on their property and shoot doves.
Right.
It's not an expensive sport.
Right.
But it all came into play after I was wounded. I was invited to go hunt with some other wounded guys and some other guys that I just left active duty. And I said, man, that'd be awesome. Let me go on a hunt. So I got my rifle ready and all my camo and everything. And I loaded it all up in my truck the night before. And then when I woke up the next morning and I was like, man, I don't want to go. What am I going to go do out there with these guys? Like, I was hesitant. And again, man, it was one of those things where like, I felt God, like, dude, go, like, get up and go. And it was one of the best decisions I've made in my life because sitting in a blind with a weapon in my hand out in the wild, was very therapeutic for me. I was able to gather my thoughts. I was able to kind of find that inner peace, and just it was very soothing to me. And after that, it was something that I craved a lot. And to be able to put meat in the refrigerator for months to come without having to go shopping at the stores where was just, it was gratifying, man. And knowing that I took that animal, I cleaned it, I quartered it, and I brought it home, and then now I'm cooking it, was the perfect circle, for me, and it helped me a lot. And I was doing a lot of rifle hunting. I never really ventured into bow hunting because, if you go on my page, you can see how jacked up my hands are. And I said, okay. So they convinced me. I went out there, and they gave me a Missions Matthew bow, which is a kit's bow. Anybody knows. And They started off at 20 pounds. So I drew back at 20, and I was, able to set and pull it. I was like, oh, this is awesome. So after that, I maxed that bow out to 55 pounds.
Wow. Yeah.
And I took a bison with that bow.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was my first
At
bow hunt.
55 pounds? That's
At
crazy.
50, and I had a clean pass through.
Really?
Yeah, yep,
That's
yep.
impressive.
And it was awesome. We
Yeah, I
stalked
bet.
this buffalo for hours. And we got it done. And after that, it was just, man, I got hooked. And now, I mean, I pull 75 now, and I catch myself bringing it back down to 70 because, I mean, you don't need more than
You don't need
65
it.
pounds.
Right.
No, you don't. It's just this whole hype of people acting like you need to pull 80, 75 pounds to be a great hunter, and you don't. But man, after that, it was awesome, dude. What I loved about it was that I had guys like John Dudley reach out and were like, "Hey, Omar, change this, make
Mm-hmm.
this adjustment." And then we finally met in person, and he's like, "Okay, this looks great, but move your elbow in, do this, do that." So he was, gave me classes, man, and it was like I didn't know who John Dudley was at the
Yeah.
time, and then everybody's like, "Dude, you just got lessons from the guru," and I'm like,
Dudley
"Ooh,
he's an amazing coach.
yeah," and they're like, "John Dudley." I was like, "People pay a lot of money to get classes with what you just got," and I
Yeah,
said,
they do.
"Really?" And by the end of the thing, we exchanged numbers or whatever. Now he's just an amazing friend. He moved over to PSC and
Yep.
brought me over, so I
Oh,
shoot
is
for
that right?
PSC now. Yeah, yeah,
I didn't know
yeah.
that.
And yeah, so I'm over at PSC now, doing stuff with him and everybody else. And
Do you have your
um,
what is it? Evo Nation or what's the bow? What's the new bow?
yeah, yeah, it's the Evo Nation one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So
Cool. Right on.
and it was pretty awesome, man, because he sent it to us before everything went on
Mm-hmm.
online, and what was pretty cool. He custom made one to me. And up until then, I had only seen Joe Rogan because he made Rogan
Yeah. Yeah.
001.
Zero zero
And
one.
I was like, well, that's cool. And then when they sent mine said CTFO 001 on it. And I was like, oh shit, this is awesome. So
That's
like,
cool, man.
yeah, so it was
What
pretty
did he call your
cool.
bow? He's always got good names.
He's making he's so this one was just so we can start hunting and using it with it now, but
Okay.
he's in the works of making mine.
Okay.
And I don't know what he's gonna call it because he keeps you in the dark till he
Yeah.
actually like puts it out. So I don't know what he's gonna
Cool,
name
man.
it.
I'll be excited to see
But
that.
yeah, so we'll see. But I mean, there's a lot of different names out there he can use, but
Oh, for
we'll
sure.
see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man. Well, hey, I want to ask you a couple of questions as we wind down. The first one is, what does it mean to be a man?
Oh man, I think it has a bunch of different meanings. It means being kind, strong, be able to follow and be able to lead when you need to. Um, I, um, I think it is just compassion, love, but man, it's it's everything that we are, everything good that we are. I think it's what represents being a man. Man, it just that's a hard question.
It is. It's for a simple question. It's really deep to think about and something a lot of people don't usually consider. I hadn't for a long time.
Yeah, no, no, definitely. But I think it's all those things. I think it's being able to be a compassion, loving person and loving every single person out there, and just being kind to all.
Right on, man. Appreciate that. Well, how do we connect with you? Learn more about what you're up to. Follow along on the hunting journeys and everything else you're doing.
Yeah, so man, I recently started doing a lot more YouTube videos and whatnot. So Crispy11B on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Everything else, everything is Crispy11B. Um, and those are all the platforms I'm on.
Right on, man. We'll get it all synced up for you. I just want to let you know again. I've said this a couple of times, but I really appreciate you. Obviously, your sacrifice and your service, but I appreciate your humility and your ability to take a very difficult situation and take it in stride and roll with it and have fun with it and play with it and then be inspirational to other people. That's pretty powerful, man, and I really respect you for that. So thanks for
Thanks,
joining
man. I
us.
appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for taking some time. I know the guys are gonna get a lot of value from what you shared today for sure.
I appreciate it.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, sir.